Hey, Chuck here at Corner Store Car Collector, back with a well overdue video. I know it's been a while since I made my last video. Actually, it's been about 4 or 5 months, which is quite some time. However, there were a bunch of just life events that got in the way from me making any videos. The main thing was I did a major move from Texas to back to my hometown in Western New York, actually Buffalo. So I got everything still packed up. You can see the mess behind me. You can see I don't have the normal backdrop that I normally have, but over time it'll start getting back into the condition that I want it in. But that doesn't mean over the last 4 or 5 months that I didn't do any collecting, because I have. I have a whole bunch of cards that I like to show off. I have 2 submissions. I have a bunch of cards that I added to my 1978 Topps football set. And then I picked up some hockey cards and some of the 1965 tall boy football cards that I like to show. I acquired these cards over the last, 3 or 4 months. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera around and I'll show you what I got. All right, so as I was saying, I have, I got about 45 or 50 slabs that I want to show you. And then I also have some raw cards that I've put together over the last several months. So let's go ahead and with the 2 submissions that I had. The first one I did, I think it was the 1980 to present submission. Then the second one I did from 1979 and older submission. I actually do have one up at PSA right now for the 50s to the 70s, so that one probably got about another 40 days before it gets back. So I'm going to start with the modern cards first, and then I will go into the more vintage cards. All right, so let's see. Got this Josh Allen 2020 Panini Select and PSA 10. Also have this 2021 Select Josh Allen in a 10. This one's a pretty neat card here. There's 2021 Prism Brilliance No Huddle in a 10. That's a pretty neat one. I don't know if that one's numbered or not. Yeah, but it's a nice card. Next card's going to be this 2001 Topps Chrome Combos. Roger Maris, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, and Babe Ruth. This one came back a PSA 8. Cool card to have those 4 baseball players on it. Next up in that submission is this 1998 Bowman Barry Bonds in a PSA 9. Another Josh Allen, the 2020 Donruss Elite in a PSA 9. Got this 2012 Topps Chrome DeMarcus Ware Orange Refractor in a PSA 9. I don't know if that was numbered or not. Doesn't appear to be. Anyway, that's a neat little card. Next I have this 2013 Flair Retro Eric Dickerson in a PSA 9. It's a very difficult card to grade with all the edges on it, but I'm happy for the 9. Next up is this Tom Brady 2016 Panini Donruss Legends of the Fall in a PSA 9. And last but not least in this 10 card submission, I have a 2000 Pacific Tom Brady that came back a PSA 7. There's some issue up here in this corner here. You can see a little white on it. Down here also. So the corners aren't in the greatest shape. Just happy to get the 7 on it. Okay, so those were the modern cards I sent in. Now for the vintage. First I have this 1974 Topps Richard Martin hockey card in a PSA 6. Next up, I have this 1973 Topps Gilbert Perreault in a PSA 6. Again, this card corners are not the best. You can see some whitening up top over here. Same thing on that corner. Next up is this 1978 Pete Rose in a PSA 7. Centering's off left to right, a little bit up to down, or top to bottom. But overall, a pretty decent card. I already have this in a PSA 8, so this one will be going up for sale. Next up is an upgrade. This 1972 O.J. Simpson in a PSA 7. I do have it in a PSA 3, but I'm happy to get this upgrade to a PSA 7, so I'll be putting that PSA 3 up for sale. Next up, 1970 Topps Merlin Olsen in a PSA 8. Pretty happy with the grade on this one. Centering's really nice on this card. Corners are good. Color looks good. Let's see how the back looks. I guess a little fisheye up top here. Centering on the back's not as good as the front, so that might explain why it got a PSA 8. But overall, it's a pretty decent looking card. Next up, I have this 1963 Post Ernie Banks in an authentic. I'm not sure how to gauge grading these postcards, these hand-cut cards, because this card is pretty well sharp all the way around. It meets the minimum size requirements. The corners are sharp, so I'm not sure why I got an authentic on this. I know there's nothing on the back to gauge because it's a blank back, but the front side looks pretty good for it to get an authentic. I'm not sure if that's a standard grade that you get with these hand-cut postcards from the early 60s, but if there is anybody out there who knows anything on these 1963 postcards, I'd love to know, because I have a few more that I want to send in, but if they're just going to get an authentic, I'd just rather keep them raw. So anyways, this one's the Ernie Banks. Next up is this 1972 Ken Dryden in a PSA 4. Thought this card would do a little bit better than a 4. It looks pretty good overall. Corners are pretty decent. The centering's alright. There's no creases on it. The color's good. But for it to get a 4, I was a little disappointed. Next up, very difficult grade to get in these 72 Topps high numbers. Willie Brown in a PSA 8. I actually picked this card up in a collection I bought, I don't know, about a year ago, maybe a little bit less than a year ago. This card was hidden in one of the binders. When I took it out, I looked at it, I was like, oh, that card looks pretty good. It looks like it's in good enough shape to grade. And sure enough, it came back a high grade in a PSA 8. So I'm happy for that. Next up is this 1969 Topps Fred Benetlikov in a PSA 6. Pretty decent looking card for the Benetlikov 69. Next I have this 1978 Topps Reggie Jackson in a PSA 8. Looks like the centering's off just a little bit left to right. Top and bottom looks pretty good. But for a PSA 8 for the 78, I'm pretty pleased with that. This is the best card in the submission here. This 1968 Topps Joe Namath came back a PSA 8. Spectacular looking card. The centering's great on it. The coloring's good. The only thing that I could probably justify why it got an 8 was the coloring here in the name block. It looks kind of faded. Almost kind of looks like it was, I don't know, painted with a crayon or something. But for it to come back a PSA 8, it's a really good looking card. Very happy to have this come back in a PSA 8. And it does retain pretty good value. I believe it's about between $550 to about $625 for the card, so it does have a good value to it in the 8. All right, next up is this 1973 Topps Roberto Clemente in a PSA 7. Obviously you can see the centering is off, left to right and top and bottom. But overall a pretty good looking card. Next up I have this 1966 Topps Daryl Laconima in a PSA 5. Another difficult set for grading with the wood grain borders. Accessible to chipping. You can see I got a little bit of chipping up on the top up here. The corners aren't the best. You can see there's a little white there. There's also some white right there. A little soft corner. Same thing on the bottom. But this one's going in my Buffalo Bills PC, so I don't really concerned about the grade. This next card, this 1968 Topps Len Dawson, is also another spectacular looking card. Although it did get a PSA 4, I'm not sure how they were going to grade it with this. I think it's a manufacturing defect on it with this little discoloration right here. There's nothing wrong with this card. I mean, it's centered perfectly, left and right, top and bottom. The corners are as sharp as can be, like it just came out of a pack. The back looks really good too. The centering on the back is really good. So the only thing I can think of with this card was just this discoloration right here that is on the card. I don't know if that was done by the manufacturer or if it was done afterward, but the card looks spectacular. I think it should have a higher grade than a 4. And then the final card for this submission was this 1978 Topps Charlie Joyner. Came back a PSA 7. I was really hoping for this to come back a PSA 8. If you've watched my previous videos, you know that I'm in the process of putting together the 1978 Topps football set in a PSA 8 or higher. So this card right here will be a filler until I can find the 8 or 9. So that's the second submission I've done. Now I have a bunch of just random slabs that I've gotten off of eBay or Facebook or Instagram, just negotiating with other collectors. The first one is this 1975 Topps Mean Joe Green. Comes back in a PSA 8. That will be going into my PC. Next up is this 1975 Topps Joe Ferguson, going into my Bills PC. Came back up, or bought it at a PSA 8. Nice looking card. The next one I got is this 1976 Topps George Blanda. Trying to put together the Blanda run. I mean, I think it's 25 or 26 years of cards, so I got a ways to go. I do have a bunch of his early to mid 50s and a couple of the 60s. So I'm starting to work on his 1970s cards at the moment. So not a bad card. It's a PSA 8. Now the rest of them, I think I have 17 or 18 of these 1978 Topps football cards. They're all PSA 8s or 9s. Low-hanging fruit. You know, I was getting them off of eBay for basically the grading fee, so it was like a no-brainer to pick them up. John McDaniel. There's a PSA 9. This 1978 Topps, another PSA 9. Not many big names in here. Most of them are commons. Danny White, quarterback of the Cowboys. PSA 8. This one's an upgrade. I think the one that I have as a placeholder is a PSA 7. Curly Culp, Hall of Famer. PSA 8. Bill Bryant, PSA 8. Ron Yari, PSA 8. Mel Blount, PSA 8. I do believe I have this in the set already. However, it's a PSA 6, so this one's an upgrade. PSA 9. Another PSA 9. This one's an upgrade. I have this Bobby Bryant in a PSA 5. So that placeholder will be removed and this one will be inserted in. '78 Tom Jackson. Great football player, great football commentator. Used to be on ESPN for many years. Him and Chris Berman used to do a football special on Sundays before the games. And I think they did them after the games too. So it was always fun listening to him. Came back in a PSA 8. Got this O.J. Simpson record breaker card in a PSA 9. And like I said earlier, the majority of these cards I got barely at the grading cost of $15. A couple of them I may have paid $16 or $17 for, but I didn't really spend a lot of money getting these cards. And I mean, I do have a lot of 1978 Topps football cards, but the majority of them, I mean, I don't want to take the chance of trying to get an 8 or 9, and just like I did with that Charlie Joyner, came back a 7. When I can just pay 15, like the grading fee for it, so makes sense to me. Anyways, Bill's team leader card and a PSA 8. I got the scoring leaders with Earl Mann and Walter Payton, and a PSA 8. So that's it for the 1978 cards, and I got this last one here, this 81 Topps football, Franco Harris. Got him in a PSA 8. I'm also in the process of working on his run. So happy to get that one in an 8. So that's it for the slabs. I do have 2 stacks here of some raw football cards, and I got a stack of about 20 raw hockey cards that I'm going to add to my sets. The first one are going to be these 1974 hockey cards. I picked these up at a antique mall in the local area around Buffalo, and was pretty happy. I think I paid like $5 for the 20 cards, but there's no real big names in here, but the cards are in pretty decent shape. So I picked them up and I'm going to put them in my set. I probably have some of them. I haven't put them in there yet. Been waiting on doing on the video before I start incorporating these into my sets. But yeah, for $5, I mean, it was a pretty good deal. Nothing big. Couple of known names in there though. All right, so that was that, and then the final stack I want to show you are the 1965 Topps football cards that I got. I think I have, I don't know, 20 or so. Tom Keating for the Bills. Art Powell. Jerry Mays. Walt Corey. Got a bunch of Houston ones too. Freddie Click. Another Houston card. More Bills cards. Harry Jacobs. Glenn Bass. Another Bills card. Another Bills card. Yeah, so I found these cards on Facebook Marketplace. Coordinated with the guy who was selling them, met him. I don't know. I bought these cards about a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago. Went out to his house. He had a box of probably a couple thousand of them in there. Most of them were, you know, if you were to grade them, probably a 5 or a 6. I'm not interested in getting them graded, so I'm just looking for cards that I needed for my set. And, you know, over the last, I don't know, 6 months to a year and a half, card prices have gone down tremendously, so it's almost better to just buy them offline instead of buying them raw and taking my chances of getting something low when I can be guaranteed the price, even if I got to pay a little bit more on them. Because I am in the process of putting together the Buffalo Bills team sets graded. There's a bunch of them that are pretty pricey, and it'll probably take me a while to get there, but there's a lot of low-hanging fruit out there on, whether you're on Instagram, Facebook, sports lots, eBay. There's plenty of places where you can find cards for really reasonable prices. But yeah, I like these 65 Topps football cards. Got the last couple coming up. Nice San Diego card. And then the last card is another Houston card. Alright, so that's what I got for you on this video. I've been away for a while. I was in the process of getting some things done. I had a lot of personal issues I was dealing with, so I had to get that stuff taken care of. However, I did not give up on my card collecting. I've been collecting cards for about 50 years now, so it's not something that I'm going to give up. I have a lot of things that I want to show you that I haven't shown yet. I was in the process of doing that when I was making, you know, videos every couple of days or whatever. But like I said, life situations changed a lot of things, and I made a major move from Texas to New York, so now I'm in the process of getting everything unpacked so I can start to put my collection back together where I need it to be so I can start making more videos. Alright, anyways, I hope you liked the cards that I showed today, and if you have any comments on anything that I showed, I'd love to hear them in the comment box. Alright, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.